And there we are, and we have people in the house. I'm so thrilled to see everybody this morning. And I'm also thrilled to welcome Susan. Susan Taylor Brown is with us in the house. Woohoo!
Woo!
And Shell is here. Hi, Shell. And there we are, and we have people in the house. So thrilled to see everybody this morning. And I'm also thrilled to welcome Susan. Susan Taylor Brown is with us in the house. Woohoo!
Scrolling through the chat, I see some familiar names there. That's awesome.
So did we get her? Okay, sounds better. I could hear.
Yeah, I realized I had a tab open. I'm sorry about that. My fault. My bad.
It's okay. It's all right. That stuff happens. You know, I should have a checklist for this.
I should know because I do this every week myself, and I still mess something up all the time.
Anyway, I want to say hello. We've got Cindy and Arlene and Laura and Terry and Nell and Debbie.
Debbie, Laura, Carla.
Glad you're here with us.
Arlene, Terry.
Hi, Vicki. Hi, Debbie.
Vicki. I'm looking at two different screens, back and forth.
Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Yeah. I know I typically have it up on my phone just so that I make sure that YouTube is running okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I also got distracted from there this morning. So anyway, everybody's saying hi, which is great. Carla's here. Good to see you, Carla. And let's get going. Let's get going here. So we have a kind of throw out with people, Susan, and you know, one of the first we always ask is, you know, how did you find us? How did we meet? You know, what's your connection with Art Joy Sharon, that sort of thing.
So I need to step back before that to my connection to art, which was I found art when I hit writer's block because I was a writer for 30 years before I turned to art. So I used to write children's books, and I used to hit a lot of writer's blocks. And so I started looking for something else that I could do to kind of get past the block. And I discovered torn paper collage. And so when I went looking for videos on torn paper collage, guess who I found? I found Shell, who has done some amazing pieces. And I was very inspired. And I was new to YouTube, didn't realize you could go to YouTube to learn that kind of stuff. I stuck in my little, you know, my writing world. And so I just started stalking her. Didn't really comment on videos, didn't do once in a while I would, but mostly it was just how much can I soak up about how to do this sort of thing. And then I found some glue books and different art journal kind of things. And I did that thing we all do where you watch a video and you buy everything you see in the video. And then I had to figure out how to use it.
Boy, is that true.
You know, I mean, there's just something about seeing, you know, I'm the sucker at the grocery store when they have all those things at the end of the shopping, you know, before you check out, you know, I would be the one throwing them in the cart. Now my husband does the shopping and I'm not tempted, so that's good. I found the group by finding Shell and following her, and she would mention the group. And then, as I was saying before we went live, I'm mostly a lurker over there, which is not a good thing. I understand that. I need to speak up and say I'm over here behind the potted plant in the corner. But I read all the posts. I love your mood board. I think the other thing is it's a brain shift for me in the way the group posts the mood boards and that kind of thing. And so I need to like spend some time thinking about working differently, which is so great because it challenges the brain and it shakes everything up. And I'm loving that. It's like, okay, I'm watching, especially Debbie Cork lately, when she's putting up these wonderful things that she's doing with colors that I would have not reached for myself. And I'm like, oh, this is inspiring. I need to do more than lurk. But that's how I found you guys, is I stalked Shell for torn paper collage. And been following her for
stockings allowed.
Good.
Within reason.
Feedback.
You
I'm
gotta
not sure where
stop.
that's from.
If you got to stalk somebody, why not stalk one of the best, right?
Are you
I
guys-
remember when I finally got brave, I was asking you, you had done an animal portrait of some kind, and I have my dog is all white, and I remember I got really brave and started asking you questions about how I could do shading with this white dog, and that was the first connection I remember. And then Peg was a bonus. I found the group, and then Peg was a bonus. Like, woo! I get 2 for 1.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, Shell and I have been hanging out together for a lot of years. So
Yeah.
you get one, you get the other. Yeah. They're talking about Debbie. Yeah. You know, this whole brand new year color thing threw me when the yellow and the gray came up. It's like, ooh, I don't know about that. And then when you start working with it, it's like a kind of a breath of fresh air because it's not a color combination that you see a whole lot. And all of a sudden it's like, this is pretty cool. You know,
I've been loving all the gray and yellow that's been coming through the group. I think it's awesome. And it's abstract, which is what I'm into right now.
Yep.
So I've been really enjoying that too. And I'm happy that people are inspired by those colors because those are the Pantone colors of the year. So we'll be seeing them everywhere in, you know, clothing and housewares and sheets and towels. I mean, it'll be everywhere. So it's the year of the yellow and the gray. And I think it's pretty appropriate, really. The sunshine and the clouds, you know, trying to come into the new light here in this 2021.
I was thinking the sun hitting the rocks in the yard.
Mm-hmm.
And so I haven't picked up paints in probably close to 2 years. So now this is the first time that I'm like, okay, I've taken a couple classes recently with artists that are doing a lot with paints, and then seeing what's happening in your group with these colors. I'm like, okay, I'm going to blame Debbie because she's the one I see all the time with these things. And it's like, okay, she is so brave. She is doing this stuff. She's just experimenting and playing, and it's wonderful to see. So I'm almost inspired to go grab my paints again.
yeah. Well, hold that thought because I want to welcome the people that are still joining us. We have people still coming in. I see Peggy and Marie, and you know, we just haven't said hello to Dreamy yet. And so, hi, hello, people. So back to that, you know, what you haven't done for a couple of years and where you are. Tell us about your comfort zone and your style. What makes you happy? What do you work with?
Nature materials. If I can go out in the garden and pick up little pieces of lichen and twigs and bring them in and add them with some fabric that I have dyed myself and put them into something, put them into a book, make them into a little embellishment. I'm also very much into eco dyeing or eco printing or botanical printing, whatever the proper buzzword is right now. I'm trying to transition myself to call it botanical printing because unless you're using 100% eco practices, it's not really eco printing. But leaf prints, you know, leaf prints on paper, leaf prints on fabric, anything that can connect me back to nature, because for many years we lived in the city with not much yard. And then we moved out to the country where we swapped a huge house with a tiny yard to a tiny house with a huge yard, and could not be happier. And I thought I was going to be a gardener. I thought that was what I was going to do here, is I was just going to garden. I didn't realize my art was going to take such a shift and that I was going to give up writing and devote myself to art. But yeah, that's, and also, you know, anything with fabric. I'm loving slow stitching right now, just really loving slow stitching. So slow stitching on fabric I've dyed myself, with threads I've dyed myself from plants in my garden. I mean, that's just like, let's put it all together, and then let's make a book, make a journal.
Yeah. Well, and see, you need to stop the hiding behind the plant and put some of that into Art Joy of Sharing, because I'm sure there is a large community there who probably would be inspired by what you're doing. I've looked at your work. I mean, I may not do slow stitching because I'm not a real fabric and stitching kind of person, but there's always something that I
So somebody posted some slow stitching this morning. She froze.
Yeah.
Peg, your internet's being a jerk again. It's
You
freezing
know,
you
it's
out.
snowing here, guys, and I don't know if that's just stuff on the line or what's going on.
I wanted to welcome Claudia and Andrea and Salted Seashell, which is probably someone named Shell or Michelle. They are new to our stream as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, that's cool.
Hi.
So,
But yes, I agree. You should post some stuff because, and even there is somebody who already posted some slow stitching this morning. It was a bright fuchsia color, which is one of my favorites.
ooh, nice.
And then they had some different, they had been taking some classes. I can't remember the name because I'm terrible with names. I'm sorry, people. I appreciate you, but I can't remember your name. But they had been taking a class on a certain embroidery stitch. So they had stitched some floral and maybe nature-ish motifs on this beautiful stuff, and then added beads, and it was really nice. So,
Arlene, I'm so happy to hear that. Thank you. Arlene says, I'm the reason she's doing some stitching of Siberian iris pods onto lace. I want to see more of that.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm just reading the comments. So along that line, you know, your comfort zone and what you're working with, do you have a regular art habit or practice that you implement?
In my dreams, I have the most wonderful art habits. No. I have never, in all my years of writing, I never had a good writing habit, and it did not translate to art. When I was writing, I was also working a full-time job, and I was teaching for correspondence school for writers. And then I was coming home and writing after that. And somehow, you know, while I was doing all that, I managed to write, you know, like 40 books and get them published and do traveling and speaking and things. And then I got finally got let go with a retirement package. And I thought, okay, this is great. I'm going to have all this time to do art, right? I'm going to just, but you know, the more time you have, and then we moved and you take time to get used to the new house, you buy a fixer-upper. But I'm fortunate enough that, you know, I can pretty much shape my days the way I want to. And I will say that doing a regular live stream every week has at least forced me to have a little bit of a schedule to know, okay, if I'm going to go live on Wednesday morning, I better figure out Tuesday night what I'm going to do in the morning.
or early on at the morning time.
And Shell and I say, it's
never know
10 o'clock and we're doing what?
Yeah, with no plans whatsoever. So there's a lot of that. And that's why there's a lot of slow stitching lately on my lives, because if I can't think of anything else to do, I will just pick up a piece of fabric and start stitching on it. But I think I'm working on cultivating a more creative habit. I'm taking a class right now that is all about that sort of thing. Like if you want to grow your business, your creative business, whatever it happens to be, you know, what are you going to do? How are you going to make these things happen? You got to do the work. You got to do the work. And I think for me, the biggest key has been figuring out, you know, there's half of your brain that has to go for the art. And there's the other half, if you have a business, that has to go for all the business stuff, whether it is, you know, dealing with the Etsy things, dealing with Facebook things, dealing with behind the scenes things, shipping out, you know, people that have bought art, shipping things out. So I had to figure out what times worked best for me. I'm not a morning person. You know, that's the joy of being retired, right? Is that you don't have to get up with the alarm clock and, you know, drive across town in traffic and stuff. So I discovered the mornings are better for me to do all the business stuff. And then by about 11 o'clock or so, I'm ready to make art. I'm ready to do something. And so I'm working, I'm hoping by the end of 2021, I will have cultivated a much better creative habit as far as working regularly, but I do try to do something every day. Thank you, Peggy.
I wanted you to see that comment there.
Thank you. That's good because I don't have my glasses on, so I have to really lean forward to see all the comments.
Yeah, well, she was saying she thought she had some of your books, so I thought that was really cool.
Thank you.
So when did you first decide to start doing videos?
I think that was, boy, that's a good question. I'm not sure how it came about, except that I had some naggy friends, Vicki Brown, I'm looking at you, and said, you know, you should do this. You should go ahead and start, because I'd had a YouTube channel, but it was mostly, you know, here's what my dog's doing, you know, let me show you my dog's new tricks. And then when you know, you do a couple and you find some kindred spirits that are supportive of you, and you find your tribe. And when you find your tribe, then you just want to hang out with them some more. And I've been extremely grateful for the support of the art community that has evolved for me from art journaling to art junk journaling to bookmaking to art, to just, you know, claiming our creative spirits. And the more I found, you know, did all that, you know, hopping around the different videos to find the people that spoke to your soul, and then felt bad when it was like, okay, this is somebody I used to watch a lot, but I'm not doing that kind of thing. I'm getting really energized when I watch Peg and Shell, so that's where I should be watching more stuff. And, you know, you find your tribe, and that's where you hang out, and you want to be like them. And so you start doing videos, you start posting things, you know, you want to hang out with the cool kids. So you start doing what the cool kids are doing.
Well, and that's true. We were just talking about that, how we get prodded. And that's one of the things that I love the most about Art Joy Sharing, is that we are a diverse group. Even though we're all working with art, there are so many different styles and so much different media, and it's so inspiring. And that's why I want people to share more, show what you're working with, get somebody inspired to, you know, follow what you're doing, and, you know, do their turn on it. You know, if it's the mood board or the pick a stick or whatever, just however you are interpreting those things and turning it into your art. It's what we love to see.
And I think that we need to, like, kick the perfectionist off our shoulders and not think about how my stuff isn't going to look like your stuff. You know, oh, I love this video that so-and-so did, and I love this beautiful piece, but I'm just learning how to do this, and it's not going to be that good. So what? Post it anyway, because the fact that you're brave enough to post something that didn't turn out the way you expected it to is going to be exactly what that person in the back of the room needs to see to get brave enough to say, oh, it's okay, I can do this too. You know, I love that people share imperfect art, because we are all imperfect artists.
Well, and we do need to share
She froze again.
those that I do, or just because I'll have a conversation with somebody and they'll say, you know, I bought this alcohol lift ink and I don't know what the heck to do with it. And so,
hi, Maggie.
With somebody.
Yeah, just to see what somebody else does with something that you've had sitting on the shelf forever. You know, and in fact, I watched Abby at Purple Cottage Crafts the other day. She posted a video on using mica. I've had sheets of mica sitting in my drawer for a year and a half now. And it's like, you know, I knew it was going to be cool. And it was like, but now I saw this video, and it's like, okay. And it's not that she did anything that was different or unusual. You know, she showed the basics of it. But it was just seeing that inspired me to think, you know, I got up this morning, I'm like, oh, that new book that I'm starting, I know exactly now what I want to do. So you need to expose yourself to stuff that you haven't used, that you bought that's sitting on the shelf, or stuff that you think, okay, I'm not going to do slow stitching. It's not my thing. But when you look at it, maybe instead of the stitches, you're looking at the color combinations. You're looking at the design that can be translated into a watercolor. Inspiration is all around. We just need to be willing to accept that it's not going to come necessarily in our chosen genre.
Well, and even just the stitching, to me, I look at it and I say, well, those are interesting marks, and I'm looking at mark making and things on a page, and you can interpret those things however you see it or how you would use it in your art. So that's really good. And that's why I say, maybe you don't think that what you're doing is appropriate for a group of artists that are mixed media artists or whatever. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I'm just saying.
I think slow stitching is mixed media. If you're mixing something together, it's mixed media. Doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be paint. It can be anything.
That's true. And you need to be, somebody needs to be the first one to post something outside the norm, right? And then you have all those other people that say, oh, well, I don't have to be such a scaredy cat. I can post mine too. All right, message received. And then pretty soon you're going to be passing over the sock and saying, okay, Susan, you can be quiet now, because I have two speeds. I have very quiet in the corner behind the potted plant, and then I have 900 miles an hour, Susan. So, Yeah,
I'm looking at the chat here. They're teasing one another, and Maggie's joined us. So I want to say hello, Maggie. So, basic tips. Can you give people basic tips that are just starting out, whether it's with YouTube or with the slow stitching or whatever, however you want to interpret that. Do you have some basic tips you want to share?
Try anything that interests you. If it sparks any kind of little bit of interest, give it a try. Because, maybe you're trying glue books because that's all you have at hand right now. Maybe you don't have access to materials, but you've got magazines and you've got paper and you've got a glue stick. So start with glue books. And then suddenly you'll see that you're attracted to maybe tearing paper, which then might lead you to torn paper collage, which then might lead you to something. It might lead you to slow stitching, because I'm now playing with doing the torn paper collage effect, but with pieces of fabric, which is just fabric collage, and you can stitch the fabric, you can glue the fabric. So if something sparks an interest, and it doesn't mean go out and buy all the materials for it, go watch a video on it and get it, see if it excites you, and then follow that rabbit trail, and then realize not every project has to be finished. We beat ourselves up for not finishing projects. But not everybody is project driven. A lot of people are process driven, and they just want to learn that new technique. And sometimes that's enough. Sometimes it's enough just to learn that new technique and then move on to something else. And the other thing is not to play the compare game. I could post one of my torn paper collages next to shells, next to 5 other people that I don't know. And everybody would say, oh, I like this. We're all drawn to different things, but we don't need to compare. We don't need to compare. It's just like, oh my gosh, I was inspired maybe by something like this, but I don't need to compare. My worth is not based on, what it looks like next to somebody else's. I used to tell my writing students, I could give you guys all the same plot ideas, the same materials, and you would all sit down and write completely different stories. And it's the same way with your art. We could all sit down with the same colors, the same paints, the same brushes, the same paper, and we would all come up with something else. So don't waste time doing the compare game. Just enjoy the process, because as soon as you let go of comparing yourself to somebody else, you're going to find that freedom that just comes from creating and letting go in the art.
And we know it's hard.
Yeah.
It is hard not to compare yourself to, you see something and then you're like, oh, that's so beautiful. I want to create something like that. And you have this picture in your head of what it's going to be like, and it doesn't come out like that. And then you're like, oh, I'm going to throw it away. Dang it. Don't like it. No, don't do that. Just leave it on your desk. Come back the next day and it'll look much nicer because we are always expecting more than what we can ever really deliver for ourselves. And that's a development of style. Your style and my style and everyone's style is not the same. So it's never going to look exactly the same. So don't even bother with trying to make it exactly the same. Do your own thing.
Yeah.
It is hard.
It is very hard.
To everyone else.
I do it all the time. And I finally given myself, with writing, it was horrible because your reviews would be right up there on Amazon. And it's like, okay, just don't even look at the reviews and don't read anything about it, because I'm not going to go back and rewrite that book because this person said they didn't like it anymore. But I give myself maybe, a 5-minute pity party to say, okay, this did not turn out the way I wanted it to. And then I put it someplace different in the studio so I can see it when I walk by it. And sometimes it's like you said, the next day you look at it, it looks better. Or sometimes it's like, ooh, I could put another layer here, or I could add something there. And sometimes, again, it's just the process of doing the piece. I have stacks of canvases in the garage that have been there for years that are unfinished. Some of them got started on collage. The backgrounds are painted. I've got the underpaintings, but I didn't do anything else with them because I lost interest in the project. But now I'm thinking, wow, if I brought those in and I started layering more paint and fabric on them, and then maybe I could take my slow stitching and stitch into the canvas, so now these things I moved them 3 times, 3 houses. But I kept them, and maybe they're not going to be the kind of thing that would go on the wall, but you can take that canvas and you can cut it off the frame, and then you can make a journal cover, or you can cut it up into, so there's always something you can do with it. The process of creating doesn't stop when you think the piece is done. It takes on a life of its own.
I think,
and a lot of times I'll go back and I'll look at a journal page or something like that from a couple of years ago, and I can critique my own work now. I can look at it and say, well, I should have done this, or I should, not that I'm going to go back and rework all of that, but it's good to go back and look at some of your work and see how far you've come.
Yeah.
I just find that's interesting in looking at my own work.
I do the same thing. I have a journal that was in an art show years ago. And I remember getting, really nice feedback from some people on it. And I was proud of what I had done at the time. It was definitely, it was mixed media and then adding some images to it. But I didn't know a lot about how to make images. I didn't know image transfers back then. I didn't know how to make images disappear into the page. And so when I picked it up during one of the moves, and it was like, whoa, I can't believe this was, in a show, number one, and then you start looking at it and you're thinking, okay, well, this technique is really cool. Okay, so here's some things I could have done differently. And I think it's really important to look at our previous work and do that. Learn how to critique. That just comes with experience, comes with time. The more you do, the more you're going to be able to see, oh, well, maybe if I put some shadows over here, maybe if I added something light over there, and then not say, not take that journal and throw it away. It's like, that's part of your growth. It's like looking at the baby pictures in the album. It's fun to see how much you've progressed, and then to put your body of work together. If your things are not leaving the house all the time, because you're making things to sell, and you can put your stuff together and see the transitions that you have made over time is, I don't know. I find it very inspiring to look at old work and then see how far I've come.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think that's where that whole practice thing comes in. I keep saying those daily practice things, whatever we're doing, everything we do is not going to be great art. We just know that. And mostly, like when we're doing a weekly show, it's just, we're getting together, we're chatting, we're trying out different products, we're doing things, but we're not there to make terrific art. It's not.
Speak for yourself.
Well, it's nice when something turns out the way you want it to, but
which is rare.
A lot of times, we're getting halfway through the show and I'm looking at the mess on my table. I'm saying, am I going to be able to rescue this?
That comes from us not planning ahead. If I do much better if I plan, at least have an idea of what I'm going to do before the live stream starts, which lately has not happened. So, but I was happy last week. I thought it turned out good.
Oh, this year has been something else, and it's just, we get together and it's like, did we plan anything? I said, I think I left the name pretty generic because I just didn't know if we were going to feel like doing anything.
I think Thursday might be gel printing.
Yeah, I think it might be just because that's the way we're feeling right now, you
I
know.
want to gel print. I obviously need more painty papers. I mean, I always need more, right?
Yeah.
It's not like my room has been taken over by them or anything. I just want more.
So, you know, you work with all of these things from nature and you know, not necessarily what Shell and I have in our repertoire. Do you have favorite tools or what do you like to work with the most?
Needle and thread. If I can, if I have a choice between gluing my little nature clusters together or sewing them, I'm going to grab the needle and thread. And that's just hysterical to me because, home ec and I did not get along way back when. I was like, no. But once I reconciled the fact that nobody was going to wear whatever I was making out in public, I was okay. I took all the pressure off. I could sew paper. I could sew paper and fabric together. I could sew fabric for things for journals and not feel like, I had to be wearing it down the fashion aisle. So needle and thread probably are my first things that I go to, and interesting fibers, something that's got some kind of texture. So I may not be able to grab everything from the garden to put the texture together, but I've got a huge closet full of commercial fabric that I am gradually over dyeing with my own stuff because there's something about seeing, it's like, well, I wish I hadn't bought, and I didn't buy like new things. Mostly it's clothes that I've thrifted and torn apart into fabric. But there's something about something you have created almost from scratch. Same thing with papers, handmade papers. Oh my goodness, handmade papers. I have an old entertainment center, one of those things from the 70s that were so popular.
Yeah.
One of those old oak ones, and we rescued it, painted it white, and it is filled just with handmade paper, except for the one sheet. So I'm really lethal. I can't go to Talus and a couple of the other paper stores because, it's like, okay, $300 later, and you get this skinny little tube. It's like, wait a minute, that's all that's in there. So anything with texture, and for tools, it would be a needle and thread, I think.
Yeah, I like what you're saying about the whole recycling thing. I mean, we are such a toss-it society, and it's from the neighbors and tearing them down and recutting them and making clothes for us as kids. Same thing with, I've taken old shirts and I liked the fabric in them, but the shirt just wasn't suitable for me anymore. And I've ripped it into shreds and, tied it on the end of a journal or something. That's great that you recycle some of that stuff.
I love to do that. My favorite, of course, are old sheets because you get so much material in an old sheet. So the fitted sheets that get worn out from your ankles at the bottom there. And we have these wonderful soft cotton or bamboo sheets, and I'm ripping those up. They dye beautifully. And anything that I cut apart, I save the tiniest little scraps. Little tiny scraps of fabric. They might only be, 1 or 2 inches that I've cut off of something. And I save all of those up. And I, whenever I have leftover paint water or ink water or coffee, whatever, anything that's got any kind of color, I'm just shoving the little scraps of fabric in there and let them sit for a couple days, soak it all up. And then you've got all these great little scraps with all these neat colors that you can play with.
Very cool idea. I like that. So if you were to
fabric, actually.
I'm sorry?
I wish I had more fabric scraps. I want little tiny pieces. I don't know where you can just get. I don't want a big piece of fabric. I want like just a bunch of little tiny, like someone somewhere must sell like a junk bag or something.
Yeah, look for samples and remnants. But they have these really interesting things called scissors. And you get a big piece of fabric and you cut them.
I don't have the space to store. I cannot start collecting. Okay, no more. No more.
I'll send you some scraps. I'll send you some scraps.
Because what I want to do is I want to glue them onto things. I don't want to sew. I'm not going to sew. I want to glue things, and I like to glue things, and fabric has texture, and I would like to include it in my collage, but I don't want to start collecting a bunch. I've got so much paper.
Yeah.
I don't have a spot.
Yeah.
But just little pieces would be good.
Okay. But yeah, and I did that for a while. I went on Etsy with all this whole pandemic thing, and it was like I didn't need more fabric, but I was getting into the slow stitching. It's like, well, I don't need it, but I want some wool. Well, I don't need it, but I want some silk. Well, I don't need it, but I want some indigo because I wasn't going to do any indigo dyeing. Yeah, so yeah, it's an addiction.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't know what you guys have in your area. One of the things that I'm lucky with is we have a craft store, which is a recycle craft store.
I wished I had that.
So you can go in and you can buy one button if you need it, or you know, a piece of fabric, or one pipe cleaner. You know, you don't have to buy the whole thing.
Wow.
And it's just, you know, people have things that are left over and they take into the store and they get credit and then they sell it out like that. And you might, you know, if you guys are looking for something like that, you might look around in your area and see if you have a store like that, because they're the best.
We have a thing around here called Fab Mo, which they started many years ago. They would get all the designer fabrics from the high-end upholstery places in San Francisco. And they found out that what they were doing was tossing all the samples at the end of the season. They would just toss them into the landfill. So they decided they wanted to rescue these from the landfill. And it started, I don't know, many years ago. And they said, well, if we come pick them up, can we have them? They said, sure. So now they get all these samples and they sell them for very nominal prices. And it was great when I lived on the other side of the mountain. Now where we live, they come out here twice a year. And I had to actually cancel my last appointment because I realized I have like 2 bins of things. I mean, you can get this whole sample book of silk for $5. It's like, oh my goodness, silk is awesome to use because it's so thin, you know, it disappears on the page. Yeah, so there are places like that around. Also, my local upholstery shop, you know, I had to stop going by there because he would just put out old sample books and say, you know, if they're outside the door, they're free for the taking. And my husband got trained where every time he drove by there, he would come home with a couple sample books for me. And it's like, okay, no, I need to be done. I need to be done.
So Debbie's talking about what they have in the UK there. That's a bin store, which I think is kind of a cool thing. But yeah, the other thing that you can look into, I've got like half price books. You know, if you're looking for imagery or art material, or sometimes the how-tos, I get those at the half price bookstore. I also have gone to our local paint store and I've gotten the paints that are mixed up that, you know, nobody wanted. And so I got a little pot of paint, and I've gotten their books on wallpaper, you know, especially the texture ones. I love the textured wallpapers. So, I mean, there's lots of art material out there that's just recycle stuff from other stores that, you know, they're not using them anymore.
The other thing is, don't be afraid to ask people. You know, we've got, you know, most of us have neighborhood groups, whether it's nextdoor.com or Facebook neighborhood groups. We have one here called like the Collective, and it's basically you ask for what you want. Somebody might say, you know, I'm just looking for purple buttons to sew back on my dress, and somebody that has them will mention it. And so if you know that you're looking for a particular something, for a while, I mentioned to my book group, I was looking for lace. I said, if anybody's, you know, cleaning out stuff and they have lace, well, one of the gals in the group brought me a bunch of lace. Somebody else brought me costume jewelry. I had a friend from high school who was cleaning out her parents' house after they'd passed. And I said, well, here are the things I'm looking for, because she was doing a lot of sales on eBay and stuff. I said, here are the things I'm looking for that I'm more than willing to pay you for. Let me know if you have any of those. Yesterday, she sent me pictures of old books that I'm like, oh, she said, well, I was just going to toss them. They're falling apart. I said, that's the best part. So just ask once people know what you're looking for.
Craft is always somebody's treasure.
I got a box in the mail from somebody I didn't even remember knowing because a friend of our mutual friend had said, oh, Susan can use that. So she sent me a box of goodies.
That's so cool. And honestly, if you guys are working on a project and there's something that's missing, put a call out in the group. Does anybody know where I can find this, or does anybody have? That's part of art community, is sharing and helping one another. So feel free to post that stuff in the group. That's great. That's a great conversation.
People will respond. I said I wanted fabric scraps, and 3 or 4 people said they'd send me some. Now I'm going to have lots of fabric scraps, and that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've done that. Shell and I have kind of had the lending library going back and forth with each other before, when we needed something, I would buy things like some sari ribbon, and she'd say, oh, that's really cool. And I'd say, well, I have more than I need, Yeah,
because when you buy sari ribbon, you get a huge amount.
Yeah.
Where are you going to put all that?
Yeah.
Share with your friends.
Yeah.
Or more than one friend.
So Susan, if you were to expand your knowledge in crafts, is there something that you'd really like to learn that you just don't feel like you know enough about?
I want to learn more about printmaking.
Awesome.
Do I have something else background? Sorry, it seemed like I had an echo there. I would like to learn collagraphs. I'm not sure if that's the right way of pronouncing the word. I can do primitive collagraphs, but I don't have a printing press. So I would like to expand my knowledge in that. And you know what? Mark making. I stink at mark making. And that's kind of one of my goals coming up here, is just to spend a lot of time working in one journal that's just devoted to mark making, because I hesitate. It's like, okay, I know how to make dots. I know how to make straight lines, but even those, I'm very deliberate. So to make more intuitive mark making, I would like to, I think that's just practice. That's just giving myself the freedom to say, okay, here's a book you're going to totally mess up, and that's okay, because you just need to practice getting loose and free with this sort of thing.
You can just get a 99-cent composition book from the Walmart and just, and then those pages can become backgrounds for something else, and you tear them up, and the parts that you like, you collage them onto something else. I mean, mark making is fun.
It's just the doing it, but I hesitate because I have little Miss Perfectionist. She sits right over here on my shoulder until I slap her off, and she's like, "Oh, well, no, you can't do it like that." Sometimes I stuff a dirty sock in her mouth, at least just to shut her up for a while. But it's hard. We hesitate because we don't know it. And if it's something that I've had zero, that I haven't tried at all, like building a collagraph, I know what they are. I watch the videos. I love them, but I haven't done it yet. So I hesitate. I would also like to get brave enough. And this is, it's not a hard thing. I just haven't done it. So that's why I'm not brave. Carving my own stamps.
Oh, yeah.
I have never carved a stamp.
Oh,
I know, not once. And it's like I have made stamps by taking, different objects and use them to stamp on my jelly plate or on my page. But I have never, and I have my knives. I even have some blocks. Have not ever done it. It's one of those things that, okay, this is not, basic stamp carving is not hard, but I haven't done it. So therefore I'm afraid, and we all get to that point because it's something we haven't dipped our toe into yet. We think, well, I can't do it. I'm going to mess it up. I can't do it. And we just need to give it a try.
It's like the same old thing, a piece of paper, a piece of rubber, whatever, and it's the same thing with paper. You got two sides,
Exactly.
The reason that I don't carve more stamps isn't because I don't enjoy the process. It's because I've got so dang many stamps, and I'm just going to make another one.
I know. I was pulling some out. It's funny you say that, because I was pulling some of my own hand carved stamps out this morning, and it's like, I don't know why I don't use those. I have so many stamps.
And that's what I want to do. I want to carve my own so that then I got rid of about, I don't know, 500 commercial stamps.
Yeah.
And I still have way too many commercial stamps. And I want to get rid of, my goal is to carve my own and get rid of what's there. So that then I don't have to worry at all if I'm using something in a digital design. I don't have to worry, wait a minute, I stamped this with some commercial stamp. I can't sell, I can't scan this and sell this.
Well, and that's a valid worry for artists. If we're making something and somebody's got a copyright on something that we're using as a tool,
yeah,
it's not the finished artwork. It's a tool. Are you really going to use somebody else's, or are you going to go to yours? So I understand.
Well, and we have to, copyright, as some of you know, is a real big bugaboo for me with regard to images and stuff. So, I'm very conscious of it. And a lot of times I will hesitate, and it's like, I've got beautiful stamps. It's not to say that I'm going to be able to carve something exactly like that, but there's no reason I can't carve things or create collagraphs that would do the same sort of thing. And maybe then it's not a collograph that I print. Maybe it's a collograph that becomes a stamp for me. I can do that. I just, there's that time management thing. Time management for artists. Oh, I think it's really hard, for me at least.
It is really hard.
I think it is for everybody. And I don't think it's just for artists. I think it's something that everybody needs to learn and implement into their life, because, we can waste a lot of time. We can.
So easy to waste. And, I'm in a fortunate position. My husband does the cooking. I don't have to stop creating to go make dinner. So I really have no excuse, except that when you have no deadline, if I'm not, because I'm not doing commission work anymore. And so I'm basically setting my own deadlines, which makes it very difficult then to say, okay, you need to, finish this project, or you need to spend 3 hours doing this. And I'm struggling right now because my digital design brain takes one side, and then my, playing with mixed media stuff, it takes another side. Yeah. And they're active at different times of the day. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do now, is to honor, okay, digital design, I can do that first thing in the morning. I can do that late at night. I can do that when I'm tired or not awake, but the prime time needs to be for creating new art.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's so true that, there are a lot of things that we can do that, like I can sit down with a journal and I can just write down ideas or whatever with my cup of coffee. But there are certain times of the day when I'm more creative, and I know what those are. And I know that if it's not that time of day, it ain't happening. And the whole thing with the time management is difficult, because suppose we get distracted and we have to go do something else, and then we lose that time that we would usually use to be creative. Then you think, well, I'm just not going to get anything done.
and then what happens? Then we start beating ourselves up and say, oh, well, you're a loser. You didn't work today. Oh, you didn't, and I'm just trying to shift the conversations in my brain and say, okay, you know what? You needed to fill up your well. Maybe you needed to scan Pinterest for ideas. Maybe you needed to, go watch a video. Maybe you needed to just go fondle your materials. There's something about just, touching all your materials that gets you kind of motivated. And I need to personally shift my conversation in my head so that I'm not beating myself up for not working when I think I should be. But I think now that I know my prime times, I think that makes a big difference. If you know when your work time is.
Yeah, I think it does make a big difference. Because I know myself that I know that in the wee hours, I can come to my studio and I can work because it's quiet. I can concentrate on something. If I wake up at 3 a.m., I can come here and I can do something, not disturb the rest of the household. And I'm perfectly fine doing that. But some people just can't do that. That they're a night owl and they want to stay up you know, they'll wait until midnight and then they'll start a project. It's like,
Yes, you just
can't
wanna
do
be
that.
done.
I'm done, you know.
I need a lot of quiet during certain times of, you know, in my most creative, I really need the quiet. There are people that they need to have all the music going and I don't. So the biggest adjustment for me this year has been that my husband, who used to work from home like 3 days a week, is home all the time. And he's home in meetings all the time. And his office has a door. Other than the bedroom, his office is the only room in the house that has a door. And we're like 10 feet apart. So it's like, okay, there's a lot of conversation happening all day long. And so I had to accept that, you know, I need to train myself to be able to work with that going on. Otherwise, I don't do anything. You know, I can't sit around and wait for quiet. You know, at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm in bed. I want to be asleep. So you need to find your prime times. And if you don't have them available, you need to figure out a way to get past that block of it, I think.
Timothy.
Gail says she wanted to see Mika, so I'm glad Mika can join us here today.
You made her presence known by barking her face off at the UPS guy. So,
Yeah, I heard the doorbell, so hopefully it was something fun.
I think it's my son's multi-tool that he's worried about. He's like, it's gonna rain and I have to go to work, and if it gets wet, it might rust. You need to get it as soon as it gets. Okay, calm down. It's a tool. It's a tool. And my husband has also been home all the time, nonstop. And he gets in those meetings with his office and he's so loud.
Yes, same here.
So loud. You don't have to yell at the people. And there's no place for him to be except for just, you know, the dining room table. So.
And my husband's told me, evidently, I'm just as loud because he has to hear my lives every week. So he'll go in there and shut the door. And he's like, well, you know, you get excited, you get really loud too. So he bought some weather stripping to put around his door so he could seal it on the inside, and some cork, because we figured if we can keep his noise in there and my noise out here, it would be. But now I had to start doing voiceovers on my videos because, you know, I need to create during the creative time. But I can't record then because he's, you know, if he's upset with somebody, it's going to come through on the recording.
Yep.
So we have to adapt. We absolutely have to adapt.
We do. And you know, we will. It's just a process. We just have to go through the process. So Susan, I want you to tell people where they can find you. You know, where are you on? I mean, I know you're in our group. But I also want to know, you know, all those other places that they can find you if they want to see what you're up to.
So I am on YouTube as Susan Taylor Brown. I post irregularly over there. I go live every Wednesday at noon Pacific time. I'm on Instagram as Susan Taylor Brown. I have Facebook. I have a Facebook page called Poppiness Go Wild, which is a long story. And my Etsy shop is Poppiness, Poppiness. And people always ask me where that name came from. And it was because
cute.
I was a native plant gardener. That was I thought was going to be my thing. And so we garden for wildlife, and poppies make me happy. So Poppiness is that. I have started a Facebook group that's very small. I'm not like trying to poach anything, but I'm just trying to emulate what you have with Joy of Sharing. And it's basically just because people in my live asked for something like that. But the YouTube is where you can mostly find me. I'm trying to get better about Instagram. I don't know if anybody else struggles with Instagram, but I love looking at all the pictures. I struggle with doing all the texting, doing it all on my phone.
Well, you know, Instagram used to just be pretty pictures, and now they've got all this video and all this advertisement and all this, you know, it's like everything else. It's just, everything keeps changing. We just have to roll with it, I guess. Did you see Nell saying to tack carpet on the inside of the door?
That probably works. The sound dampening, yeah.
Yeah, we're struggling with the whole what to do and still make it look nice, because we bought a fixer upper and we finished the fixer upper part, at least as far as aesthetics.
Yeah.
So, one of the guys was making suggestions about, you could do all this on the outside of the door, and it's like, no, that's a brand new door. We just got that up there. It's all nicely painted and everything. So he's willing to do things on his side, and we'll see what we can do to just soften it for both of us. I think it'll be good for him. It'll be good for me.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So is there anything that's, just burning that you need to share with our audience that
Well,
we
I
missed
just
or
want to
glossed
say
over here?
what I'm most grateful for in the Art Joy of Sharing group is you are true to your name. It is the joy of sharing. And the two of you over the years have given such a great example of what an art community should be like.
Thank you.
That there is I have never once seen any kind of ego battles within the group, within your lives. What I see, but I don't even see that you have to tamp anything down. I just see that you are just a beautiful example of two talented artists that are friends, that are sharing, and that you invite the rest of us to come in and share with you. And I just think that is amazing. And if we could all just go out into the world and do what you guys are doing, which is make art, share art, and be friends with one another, not play the compare game. Because I just, like I said, you guys were the first group that I found, and shell stocking paid off in the very best way. And that's just so that's what I want to say is be more like Shell and Peg and make art and take joy in sharing that art with one another and holding each other up, because we all become better artists, better people, better friends when we hold each other up. And there's no skin off my nose if I tell you how awesome these guys are, because I'm telling the truth. They're awesome. And I just want to be, I'm just happy to be in the circle. That's, the circle of artists that support one another.
Well, and you all are my people. We are so grateful for our audience, for the people that are coming to join the community, that are sharing with each other, that are inspiring one another. It's just, it's been my dream, my goal for many, many years to have a community of like-minded people that can support one another. So thank you, Susan, for being one of our people.
Yes.
Thank you.
And thank all of you who came too. There's a lot of new people in the group or in the chat that I haven't seen before. So that's
I'm glad
cool.
to see everybody here. And I thank you so much for letting me be a part of, your circle today. This has just been wonderful. I love talking art with my tribe.
Yeah.
With my tribe. That's it. Once you find your people, you just want to hang out with them all the time.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And, it's so, one of the things that keeps me going is you guys. If it wasn't for you guys caring and wanting to share, and I'm here for you, you're here for me. It's a mutual admiration society. So
That's what someone just said, a mutual admiration society.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So anyway, I just want to thank you once again, to tell people to take care of each other and to be kind, be smart and safe. Things are starting to look a little bit better with the injections coming out and that. So, let's just all take care of one another and, focus on what's important, not the bad stuff.
Maggie and whoever else said it, I will fix the link under the video. I'm sorry it's not working. Our group link isn't working.
Okay. All right. So sorry.
I'll fix it.
Anyway, we love seeing what's sparking your art. So be sure and post in the group. And if you're not a member of our group, why not? Join the group. There's a few questions to answer. If you, click on it and want to join, just to make sure that it's a safe place. And, we want to keep it safe for all of the people that are there. So thank you one and all. And we'll
Thank
see
you for having me.
time. Thank you, Susan.
Bye-bye.
Bye.